it's 4:34 in the morning and I'm sat here filming leafcutter bees. I finished work at 1 o'clock this morning. As I lay my head down, I began to hear some snap crackling from the cocoons. If you listen carefully, you can hear them trying to make their escape. As I picked up the container, I could see that one of the bees, she'd already made her exit. Ugh, it's so early. As much as I wanted to go to bed, I didn't want to miss the opportunity of watching them emerge. They began to get even louder. I decided to put the cocoons into the release chamber. If you'd seen my mason bees release video, I explain in that video about all of this equipment and about the brilliant Mason Bees company and their amazing guardianship program. Leave a link in the comments below for my Mason Bees video, but I'll also leave a link as well to Mason Bees, the company, so that you can get your own equipment for 2022. Although the cocoons are made out of leaves, they're really hard. It must be a really tiresome exercise for these poor little guys. As you can see, these guys have made a hole so that they can escape, but they don't have the energy to leave. I've got to be back in work in about 6 hours time. I really hope that you appreciate this video. Mason bees tend to emerge in the late spring, early summer, whereas leafcutter bees tend to emerge May or June. Their life cycles are identical, except leafcutter bees use leaves instead of mud. Female leafcutter bees lay an egg on a stash of pollen. They then seal up a chamber with some leaves and will repeat this process until the cavity is full, and then they'll seal it up. Over the course of the next year, the egg will hatch and turn into a larva. It will then feast on the pollen, wrap itself up in a cocoon, and then emerge the following year. Oh my god, so cute! Leafcutter bees are superior pollinators. 150 leafcutter bees can pollinate better than 3,000 honeybees. It was so cool watching Kevin make his first steps. He's so clumsy. The difference between mason bees and leafcutter bees to honeybees is that both mason bees and leafcutter bees are solitary bees. That means that they don't live in a big hive. I don't think he's got the hang of flying just yet. In fact, the males mate with the females and then they shortly die. The females then get to work building their nests. Essentially, each female is a queen. They lay all female eggs at first, and then the very last few eggs in the tube will be males. For the second time, I've now got angry bees flying around my living room. I covered the holes so that they couldn't escape, but made sure that there was still room for air to circulate through. Right. I think they've tired themselves out. I don't know where he's gone. He's gone off somewhere. I'm gonna see if I can get a little bit of rest and see what happens a little bit later when they become a little bit more active. Eventually, Kev made his way back. I took the garden kit out onto the cloud garden. As you can see, a few more of them have now made their way out of their cocoons. For some reason, Kev stays at the front. temperatures were still pretty cold, and it seemed like they didn't want to take flight. You can see some of the pollen from the cocoons all over the chamber. On reflection, the temperatures in my apartment were probably warm and that encouraged them to hatch earlier. Interestingly, the bee at the top, Tina, you can see she tried to nest underneath the tube, and that told me that perhaps maybe the weather and the temperature just wasn't the right temperature and she wasn't ready to leave. The next morning, I'd seen that some of them had left, but a couple stayed, so I decided to grab some flowers and some pollen for them and then leave that in the chamber. As a brand new bee mum, I was really concerned that they weren't going to have enough food or water. The weather wasn't due to warm up for a while, so I was really worried about their safety. I've been watching them for most of the day, but they never actually left the chamber. They just stayed there. You're right, guys, so I've just finished work. It's been a really beautiful day today. So we're just going to see if the leafcutter bees have left home or if they're still here. I'm not sure why they would be, but let's have a look. Wow, that came as a complete shock to me. I've got absolutely no idea why they have decided to stick around. It looks like they are feeding from some of the pollen that I put in there. They seem quite happy in there, so I think I'll just leave them be and see what happens. Morning. I'm not really a morning person, but one of the things that does get me up out of my bed is checking on these leafcutter bees. So I'm going to take you outside and we're going to have a look and see if they're still around. The weather is looking pretty awful at the moment. It's gone right back to being cloudy, windy and rainy and really quite miserable. So it'd be interesting to see if the guys are still there. Let's go have a look. They are definitely eating some of the pollen. And Tina? Well, Tina's moved positions. For bees that are supposedly solitary, it was really interesting to see that they actually don't mind being in each other's space. Okay, but just how cute is Tina? Look at her. They're still here. Yeah, I guess I'm probably gonna change the flowers in there and keep an eye on the water and just see what conditions they like before they start to leave the nest. So I'll keep you updated. Super sunny day today. Finally it is warm and sunny. I think I may have lost them, but let's go check in on the leafcutters and see where they're at. Why are you guys still here? They are so lazy. I think they are living their best lives in this 18th floor Hilton apartment. Kevin is still standing there guarding that entrance. And Tina's gone right back towards the tube. Sad, it looks like one of them hasn't made it. Another one seems to have left. And the others seem to just be sticking around. It's really interesting. I don't understand why they are not leaving. Later on that day, the temperatures rose to around about 19 degrees on the ground level, which of course on the cloud garden wasn't the same. It was around about 24-25 degrees. And I'm happy to say that all of the gang flew away. Unfortunately, they didn't stay in nest with me, just like the mason bees. The main reason why is because at that time I just didn't have the amount of flowers that I needed for them. I want to show you a little clip of some leaf cutters in action in my mum's garden in South London. A good telltale sign to know if you have leaf cutter bees in your garden will be if you go out and you see some semicircle shapes in some of the leaves on some of your plants in your garden. They'll make semicircle cuttings and then they'll carry those all the way back to their nest and then fit them into the tubes. There's a lot of talk about saving the bees, and people tend to think about honeybees and bumblebees, but the reality is that honeybees are actually nowhere near extinct. In fact, their numbers are rising because urban residents are now starting to take up beekeeping as a hobby. It's our solitary bees that really need a bit of focus and a bit of help. Sometimes leaving your garden to go to seed or increasing the amount of wildflowers in your garden are really helpful, because that is what our solitary bees feed on. It didn't quite work out, but it was still a really interesting experiment, and I would definitely try it again next year. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and you got to learn something new. Hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye.